The Cardinals are in a really interesting spot because obviously they're in the most screaming spot for a trade down, right? Like, everyone's saying, go quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. They could trade down for the next team that wants to either come up and reach on JJ McCarthy, or make a move for, jump Joe Alt, like try to get one of those guys. But then when you look at the Cardinals and you say, yeah, I don't think any of us would frown upon, trading down, getting more picks, accumulating picks. But also, like, the Cardinals have to start making some moves as well. I mean, Kyler Murray, the theme of the show, I think, has been kind of like where teams are with these quarterback contracts. And Arizona has missed their grace period with Kyler Murray. He now has a cap hit of $43 million or more in each of the next five seasons. The Cardinals really don't have a realistic out year without a significant cap penalty. Now, they can always just pull the plug like any team can, but they don't really have a realistic out without significant penalty until 2026. And when you look at Kyler Murray, his best stretch of playing football as a pro so far has when he played with an alpha wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. So you look at Arizona's wide receivers. I mean, they're 30th in catches last year, 30th in receiving yards. They're 23rd in touchdowns. They've traded for Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins under Kyler Murray, but the only wide receivers they've taken with top 100 capital have been Andy Isabella, Rondale Moore, and Michael Wilson. So it's one thing to say, like, we keep acquiring picks, right? But the Cardinals are no guaranteed to get back up there. Everyone's favorite thing is the Cardinals trade out and then trade back in, like, to get Marvin Harrison. Like, you can't always have your cake and eat it too. Like, you can get your stockpile of picks, but like, what if the Chargers don't want to trade, right? Like, what if the Chargers wanted Marvin Harrison? Like, there's all these things that, like, you just can't account for. Like, on paper, in a perfect world, you say this was going to work out for the Cardinals, but they have all this draft capital. Like, you have to start getting Kyler Murray, like, actual weapons outside of Trey McBride right now. And then they just have a ton of other needs too, as well. I mean, this secondary is Sean Murphy Bunting is their number one cornerback right now. They also were 24th in pressure rate. They were 30th in sacks a year ago. Like, this team has a lot of needs and a lot of capital, but they also are paying Kyler Murray now $40 million access a year. They have to get him actual weapons because they're invested in him.
Warren, when we talk about strength of schedule for this team, I don't even know how to look at it, how to analyze it at all, because this is a team in the Cardinals that it feels like year over year, we continue to talk about their weaponry, talk about the Kyler Murray effect, so on and so forth. And it's letdown after letdown with them. Obviously the Kyler injury is something no one can account for, but how do we go about analyzing this team's win total? You're seeing right here, strength of schedule on the screen, and the Cardinals right there in the middle, 16th. It does not get, it gets only easier and only harder from there. They're as mid as you could be in terms of that. How do we break down this strength of schedule for Arizona?
The problem with the Arizona Cardinals, especially when you're trying to pre-flop bet them, is always going to be, will Kyler Murray even be available at the end of the season? Now, we know last year it was off of an injury, so he was starting late. But for every single other season, it's always been, what am I going to get out of Kyler Murray the last month of the season, the last 6 weeks of the season? And it's the similar thing to what a lot of Lamar Jackson haters have said historically. Oh, Lamar's never around at the end of the season. Well, Kyler Murray has been similar. And, last season to this season, when we're looking at strength of schedule, they played the fourth toughest schedule last year. This year, they're going to play league average. That's actually the fourth largest year-over-year improvement in schedule ease. That's a positive for the Arizona Cardinals this year because last season they played 13 games versus teams that finished above 500 last year, the number 2 highest total in the NFL. They played 10 games versus teams that made the playoffs. Only the Cincinnati Bengals in NFL history have played more. So this year they've got opportunities. Rich mentioned they own the number 1 most draft capital. It's the most that their team has held in over 25 years. Only one team has used more draft capital in the last 3 years than what the Arizona Cardinals currently hold. I hear what Rich is saying, that you want to get your guy at number 4 overall. I kind of like a win-win scenario where they trade just a couple spots down with the New York Giants. Sorry, the landscaper is here doing some crap out there. I kind of like the idea of the trade down to the New York Giants. That number 4 pick is highly coveted due to the way that the quarterbacks seem to be falling in those first 3 picks. somebody comes up, they're going to take a quarterback number 4, then you just have to worry about who's drafting at number 5. Could they potentially take the guy that you want if you go down to number 6? And then you can keep stockpiling draft capital in future years while still having probably the most draft capital of any team in the draft this season. They drafted Kyler Murray at number 1 overall in 2019. They got more draft capital this year than 2019. Last year, they drafted Paris Johnson Jr. at number 6 overall. They got more draft capital this year than in that draft as well. They have 3 picks in the first 35 overall. They have a ton of needs, as Rich said. They're not a great team. But the good news for them is that if I'm a coach of the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to be loving it because the expectations are pretty low for my team. We've got a ton of draft capital. So I'm able to build this team in my likeness, in my image, right? They did that a little bit last year because they had a lot of draft capital last year. They got even more this year. And then they got to buy themselves a lifeline. Eventually, they're going to have to figure out, how do we win games with a quarterback who is costing us a lot of money but not producing at the level at which we're having to pay him against the salary cap, comparable to other quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's really what this league comes down to. Can you get quarterback production at a level that is at or below what you have to eat on the cap with the quarterback that you have? And if the answer is no, we can't get that production, and it doesn't matter how expensive your quarterback is. If you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal contract, but he absolutely sucks, that's not going to help you. If you've got a quarterback who's the 3rd highest paid quarterback in the NFL at a ton of money, and he's not performing to that level, that's not going to help you. It doesn't matter what you're paying the guy. He's got to perform above what you're paying him, and that is the code. Most of the time it happens on those rookie deals. So I'm excited to see what Arizona can do this year because I think that they've got a lot of options and very low expectations. But at the end of the day, it's going to hinge on whether Kyler Murray can remain healthy all 17 games. And like Rich said, what other weapons can they surround him with? Because the cupboard is relatively barren there.